Action it is. Jesse Mills, I get to be with you today. What a privilege. I'm excited. As you know, the start to these is a word, and there is something about you that made this really easy. And the word I've chosen is positivity. The attitude of enthusiasm, the attitude of being positive. How do you exude that? Like day in and day out. It doesn't seem to matter what the situation is. Are you just a glass half full kind of guy? How do you become that?
It's funny you say that. I was talking with a couple of our advisors we work with on our infinite banking programs. And one of the things we talked about between me and my wife is I'm 90% happy 90% of the time. And I brought that up in our first meeting, and they bring it up all the time now. I don't know. I've found that life is just more fun that way. It's easier that way. It's like you're going with the flow versus against it. And
so it's a choice.
I think it's a choice. It's also, it's part of how I am. I enjoy being around other people. I enjoy the possibilities, the opportunities, adventure, excitement, newness, right? Yeah.
So oftentimes in these opportunities I get to interview amazing people, I'm curious. I wonder. You know, that's a mark of an entrepreneur. I think it defines us. But I'm curious. Where did that come from? And so I want you to take us way back. I want to see a glimpse of your childhood, your parents, the environment. Was this something that was just modeled around you? Or at some point, did you just make a choice to become this? Talk to me about your childhood and what that looked like.
Yeah, I was incredibly blessed to have great parents. My parents were never together, never did get married, but they had me at an early age at 20 for both of them, and very different people. But I always knew they loved the heck out of me, always. There's never any doubt. And my grandmother, actually, my dad's mother, who passed away a few years ago now, 99 and a half, she made it. But she basically raised me because my mom went back to school, was working, and in college, in her low 20s. My dad was working, and so my grandma raised me, and she never didn't have a smile on her face. She always had a smile. Almost any situation, she'd be the first person at the grocery store to say, "How are you doing? How are things going?" And, usually it should be the opposite, right? Customer service. Ask me how I'm doing. And she just always was just cheerful and happy. And everyone that knew her loved her. And I spent a lot of time with her growing up.
So was she relatively retired at that point when she was taking on this role of raising you?
She, I think, had when I was born, was just wrapping up 3 different jobs. She was a teacher her whole life, and then also worked at the grocery store, ironically, and then had another job. I don't know what her third job was, but I know she worked 2 to 3 jobs. She had 7 kids, which for me is a lot. I'm an only lonely child, and I think that's a lot of it too. I'm an only child, so I spent a lot of time with adults, with my parents and other adults, and just was kind of forced to talk to people, which is something you don't see a lot of these days, right, with kids. It's interaction with a lot of other people, and just very, very blessed. But yeah, my grandmother never had, it's like a bad day. And if she got crabby, it was maybe because someone was driving too slow and she was flying around them. She once got 3 speeding tickets in Montana on the same trip.
In Montana,
driving from
Minnesota,
they don't
give speeding tickets.
I know. I said, "How do you get this? There's not even a limit."
You got to really be flying.
I know. And she almost got out of one of them, but they said, "No, we see here that you came through on the way out to Idaho, and now you're coming back.
Right.
So you know
got
the drill."
priors.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, okay, well, that was a fun story, and it's all about a story. And so everything was a story. And I just kind of, I don't know, I guess developed early on that, there's so much good in life. And maybe because I've had a lot of good things. I've been very fortunate, very blessed and lucky. I was born into, a low middle class family, I would say, but I never didn't have what I needed. And being an only child, of course, I got a little bit more love than being maybe one of seven.
And it sounds like a sort of now I'm putting some pieces together, but tell me if I'm wrong, that when you were with your dad, you're with your dad. So you're like his kind of sole focus at that time. When you're with your mom, okay, it's her time with you, so she's focused. And now I'm with your grandma. And so that individualized focus, I don't know. I'm putting a couple puzzle pieces together. I'm reflecting. I had the privilege of interviewing Lindy, who kind of gave her glimpse of childhood also in a very unconventional sort of way, but an only child with almost like a team of adults that loved her and cared for her. Not just her mother and father, but like a group that raised her, almost like by a small tribe. And also an incredibly positive person. I'm trying to draw the parallels, but that positivity, took you out into the world with a vibe. What was your first awareness of people responding to that vibe? Was it early in school? Was it in sports? Was it where did you feel like this works for me out there in the world?
Again, having incredible parents, right, and incredible family. My whole family, but especially my mother, she's one of those people that has been complimentary. I mean, just all the time. You know how many people love you, Jesse? Do you know how special you are? Just always has said so much good, amazing, positive things to me. Not here or there, but all the time. And you're such a smart boy, and your teachers love you, and your people just like, and it's almost was a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like I think
you believed it.
I think I'm just being me. I feel like me, but
Yeah.
I don't know. In high school I realized that I wasn't necessarily the most popular person in school, but I also knew just about everybody. And we all know high school and junior high. There's all the cliques, and I don't care where you grew up and what time frame. Right? There's the jocks, and there's the the nerds, and there's this group and that group and this group of people, which is it's horrible. Everybody is labeled. I got along with everybody just fine. I could find common ground with almost everyone. It was and it wasn't overlapping 10 out of 10, but I could connect on the 3 out of 10 things that I got where they were coming from and have a good conversation. And I'm just always been curious about people. I want to know more about people and their stories.
If we are, as entrepreneurs, if a big part of what we do is what we would call the people business, that gift, that ability to connect with and relate to all different walks of life, all different perspectives, all different types, just by sheer numbers, matches found, by increasing your bandwidth of who you can connect with, you increase your life, you increase your business. I think in terms of Kipling, he speaks of that ability to connect with all different socioeconomic groups, all different types of people, the jocks, the nerds, et cetera, all these different categories that we put people in. If you can connect with all of them, your chances of forming a connection and all of what that means in life and business increases.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think everyone has something to share and to give, and most people just aren't open to it. or they're so involved in their own world and what they're going to do next, or what they have on their plate, or what am I going to say about me next, and it's exhausting to even and everyone gets like that. I get like that. We all get like that at points, but to really just sit with someone and I want to learn about you, your story, your background, and the funny thing is, it's the more you do that, the more you get comfortable with it. You're like, wow, had I not opened my mouth to this person on the plane, right? Instead, I just sat there with my AirPods in and stared straight ahead, maybe give him a little smile. I wouldn't have met the CEO, actually the COO of a Fortune 500 company who had 250,000 employees that he was responsible for, and learned about their business and forecasts that he was seeing from people way up. Like, what an incredible conversation I had on one flight. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't open my mouth.
Right.
And I've had so many experiences like that where my wife always jokes, if we're flying somewhere, it's usually her and the kids, and then I somehow get, because we can't get 4 in a row, right?
Right.
And so I'm by myself.
Give you the one off.
I get the one off because I'm talking to somebody, 3 out of 4 hour flight.
Right.
And my wife's like, oh boy, here he goes. It's like, who'd you meet today? She just knows the second we get off
Who's
the
your
plane.
new best friend?
Who's your new best friend? I said, well, we have a place to go in Houston now. So I met Bill, and Bill works with the oil business. And he said, come on over and have dinner. And
Of course he did.
it's just, I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah. That's, I have reflected on this, and we've really gotten to know each other well through Power Players and through working together. But one of the things that I preach, if that's the best way I can put it, is the philosophy of unlikely connections. And I sort of proved that point, that the answer that you're looking for is not going to come in the package you think it will come in. In other words, the person you walk by, the person that you go, oh, we have nothing in common. There's your answer. It just walked right by you. Waldo in the picture that you've been looking for, that key to your next step, the next level, the next breakthrough in life, the next aha. Closer. Oh, farther. You missed it. You missed it because for some reason you said in your mind, there's no answer there, or we have nothing in common. I think in some ways, I'll get back to here, but hang on.
I'm here for the ride, man.
That the internet has hurt us in one sense, that back when you would get together with people and say, hey, tell me about things. Now we have a meetup group for everything.
Yeah.
If you sew buttons on, and buttons is your life, and you sew them on a piece of felt, there's a national convention for people just like you who sew buttons on felt. And you can get together with everybody else that thinks that that's the deal, and you can sit and talk about buttons on felt all day long, because there's a meetup group for you.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group for
You
that.
don't need to know anyone else. If you just want to know people just like you, believe me, it could be, the description could be that long, and they'll be there, because there's others just like you. But is there really? And what the hell's the point of that anyway?
Well,
I
you're
mean,
not learning.
I'm all for meeting people that like the things that I like, pilots, da-da-da. But I don't learn as much. I discover when I'm with people that really aren't like me. And if growth is what I'm after, that's where I'm going to be most challenged. I want to start a meetup group of people not like me. Here's me. If you're anything like that, don't come. And then once you decide to come, say everything about you, and then the next person has to be not like either of us. And let's see how many people we can get in a room that, at least by stated qualification or history or experience, don't look anything like everybody else who's already signed up, because now we've got a salad. Now we can learn something.
Do you know how many people would be so freaked out by that?
I am
So
too.
many people.
But how great is that?
Oh, it's fantastic.
That's
fantastic.
But you have this ability and this willingness to dive right in. And what gets you in the door? Enthusiasm, kindness, this warmth that you put out there, which I believe people can be in control of that. I don't think you have to just be it. I think you can choose it. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think it's a component of people. It's easier for some than others, but absolutely, it's a choice. It's how do you want to wake up, and every day is a new day, a new chance. Every introduction is a new introduction. And I mean, how arrogant are we that I don't want to learn anything from anyone new, or you so judgmental. I can't learn anything from that guy or that gal. Who the hell are you to think that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you have no idea what you're not learning, who you're not meeting, how you might have the one thing they're looking for to help them.
Yeah.
Or they're the one call from the next call from the thing that you need. And it's not that it's about needs, but it's all possibility. It's all possibility. You have no idea unless you connect. And you can find something. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, people are pretty easy. They want to talk about themselves, right? And so listen. Not enough people get to talk about themselves and say the good things, right? Maybe their love language is, words of affirmation, and they're not getting that love language at home. And they just want to be heard, and they want someone to share something they're excited about with. And it's simple. It's free, right? But you can absolutely make someone's day that way.
It's free.
It's free.
Positivity creates possibility. It's like a key that unlocks that door.
Absolutely.
To discover. And the notion that your life is really what I'm interested in is one of the many reasons, Jesse, that the call came your way to be a TA at Power Players, not just because of your real estate accomplishments, but it's the full focus and attention you give other people. When they leave you, they feel taller. They feel better about themselves. They've been listened to. They've felt that somebody sincerely has cared about their life. And maybe in a world of continuous partial attention where nobody really gives anybody their full focused attention anymore, just the leaning in, maybe that's the interpretation of care. It's just, I'm here, I'm leaning in, I'm listening. I don't know, but it's awesome.
Well, and I think a lot of that goes back to, again, my mother is just one of the most sweetest, caring people in the world. Of course, my father is, and my grandmother was as well, but my mother is just Captain Empathy. Captain Empathy. She is always, and almost to a fault, not thinking about herself, just always thinking about, she's stops and pauses almost anything she says because I don't want it to offend anyone in this room. I want everyone to feel good, and I want to be careful with what I say and how I say it, and thinking of other people's thoughts and opinions, and doesn't really joke around because that might hurt someone's feelings, and that's a bad thing. And so a lot of that rubbed off on me of just how am my actions or my words making somebody feel, and is somebody upset or hurt or bullied or sad because of something, and everyone else is just ignoring them. Like, I don't want to be that guy that just ignores them. It's really rude. So I'm going to go see what's going on and ask, because no one else is, and that's not how I was brought up.
It's that philosophy of thinking of others really ahead of what you might want to say or do or even think yourself is extremely rare. I also believe that with every gift and everything that comes out there, there's the downside of that, of the risk of not wanting to offend can become the willingness to just not be honest with people,
Yes.
right? You know, I mean, there's this, like in so many things, there's this ridge line of this is all good, and yet taken to an extreme, you start eliminating other things that are also good, like candor, like honesty. And so how to have this sensitivity and this heart and empathy, and yet at the same time be true to yourself and the honesty you want to present to the world. Right? I think that there's this balance that is very difficult sometimes to achieve. Loving someone else, it starts with having a certain amount of love and respect for yourself.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you have to.
Have to.
Yeah.
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 And that means being honest with yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And help yourself, and then you can help others. Being true to yourself doesn't mean you're more important to me. It means that I know that I'm important. I believe that, and you're important, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
let's have that kind of honest discussion.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough, but you do it so well. And I see the way people react to you. And I've seen it not only at Power Players a couple times. I've spent a day on the streets with you and watched as you interact with all of the various people that you work with, your partner, your employees, the different people in the same association. And the room just stands up taller when you're around. I think that is something everybody should aspire to be like.
Well, I
think about it, Jesse. The
can't say it's
greatest
always
person you know, and you've talked about your mom, your grandma, and your dad. Okay, but I would say that across the board, I have people visualize picture the greatest person you personally know. The greatest person you know, like just picture them. Close your eyes and go, yep, there they are. I personally know them, and to me, they're the greatest person. And the reason why they're the greatest person is the way this person makes you feel about yourself. That's why they're the greatest person. They make you feel more capable. Just like your mom and grandma did to you. Jesse, do you realize how smart you are? Wow. And everybody really likes you because of this and that. You stand up taller.
absolutely.
Right?
Well, and then you almost feel like that's who I am, and that's how I have to be because people think that, and I'm not the negative guy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, maybe that 9 out of 10 I'm happy and cheerful and excited, and I get crappy, I get down, I get frustrated, I get upset, and when I do, I got to get it out. I'm like, that's not me. That's not who I am. It's not how I affect people positively around me. It's certainly not going to make things easier or more fun. And so get it out, move on. But that's not how I'm being to be myself. But sometimes, what does it take more muscles to frown than it does to smile? Right? It's just easier, It's just easier that way. And I think when people get in the habit, it's a habit. It is. It's you start realizing, hey, I have these good conversations, and it turns into other good conversations, and it turns into I'm feeding someone something that they need, and they feel better, and and it can lead to a lot of good conversations.
Yeah.
I think you and I talked actually on a coaching call about a deal, 31 acres in a part of town that nothing is for sale. It's been all developed. And that whole conversation started by me talking to a guy at a liquor store who was checking me out, ringing me up. Guy just had kind of the Eeyore face on, and I'm like, hey man, how's it going today? Not very good. Well, most people would say, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And
Hope it gets better.
here's
See
my
ya.
visa later.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this guy seemed really down. I'm like, well, talk to me, man. What's going on? Why are you having a bad day? And get some rude customers? Try to, make a little joke. And him and his family were going through their parents' belongings. They had just passed away. The family farm, they didn't know what to do with that. So, oh, where's the family farm? Told me where I was at. I'm like, oh, so you house and some acreage, or 31 acres? I'm like, oh,
Oh, in that location? Huh.
really?
Yeah.
And this ended up being a 25-minute conversation. And there's people behind me, and I stepped to the side and I said, "Oh, good, ring them up." And I got yelled at because I was supposed to run to the store quick and come home. I said, "Honey, I just met this really nice guy who's got this situation. Maybe we can help out." Poor guy he looked miserable, and he had some just a-hole clients. And yeah, no clue going in and getting a couple bottles of wine and some Captain that would have that conversation. And it just came from honestly, sincerely caring about this guy and just
Right.
talking.
Waldo in the picture right there,
Yeah.
but you took the time to lean into it. Where in your entrepreneurial world, I know a bit of your business history. Give me the first inklings that entrepreneurship was calling your name, where you felt like I've got to do it for myself. Where did that first hit you?
My first job, I was 14. My uncle owned a comic book store / collector store. So like all the Magic the Gathering and comic books, and then baseball cards and sporting cards. And I liked it. I liked making money. I always kind of wanted things and freedom and to be able to get what I wanted. And my parents made me work for chores. It was never just here you go, here you go. So I had chores. I had to save up. I had an allowance. But I had that job, and I ended up mowing my neighbor's lawn. They gave me $20 cash. And I did that once a week. And I said, I'm making more doing this practically than I'm at the mall, where I have to sit there in an empty store for hours and hours and then paying taxes. So of course I wasn't doing taxes, lawn care. But anyways, that turned into okay, I see the idea of I can wake up and go create something. And so I ended up going and passing out 100 flyers door to door. And I got 5 people that said, sure, I don't have a lawn kid. You can be my lawn guy. And I was 14. And next year it grew. And when I was a senior in high school, I had about 45 accounts. And that's all I was doing. And I'd work 16-hour days, 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row. But then I'd take 2 or 3 days off, and I'd go to the beach and hang out with my friends. And I got to, if I wanted more, go get more customers, right? And if I wanted the time off, rearrange my schedule so I could have the days off when most of my friends were playing volleyball. And then the other days they're working, then I'll just go bust my butt. Or, hey, it's sunny and it's going to rain in 3 days. And so that really, and I don't know where that came from. I saw the opportunity of making more money, and it was more fun. I was outside, and I could choose the times I got to work. I said, okay, this whole mall thing, I don't want to do that anymore.
I love this. If I wanted more, I just go get more customers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wanted more days off, I'd work longer these days. The control of your own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
I think that essence is what draws a lot of people to entrepreneurship. They want to be in control of how this goes next. Sometimes, like you, they kind of do the math and go, okay, well, here's what this looks like, and there's no ceiling, or there is a ceiling. You show up, you're here for this many hours, you lock up, this much tax gets taken out, this is what you're going to make. But here, it's up to me. I can get more customers. I can work harder. I might get on an employee to take accounts on, and they actually do them. And the idea that there's limitless potential in one and a certain ceiling in another is what I think draws some people that way. Tell me how that transition eventually, or that attitude eventually got you into the world of real estate. What brought you into that world of real estate as kind of a positive entrepreneur at this point? What segued into that?
Well, so the lawn care business was through high school. Wasn't that smart of a businessman because I didn't sell it. I just shut it down at 18. Went to college, and I studied abroad in Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. I'd love to travel by the time I was in high school and college because my grandmother, again, I was backtracking. I was 8 years old, and I was one of 5 or 6 of my cousins that she took out on this like month-long road trip. Imagine being 65, taking 7, maybe 8 kids under age 14 on a road trip for like a month from Minnesota to San Diego and around. And we didn't just backtrack. We did the whole loop. If you could see something, we saw it. We had scrapbooks, and we're going through AAA, like the tour guides.
Wow.
You know, no internet, right? So I'm like, hey, this place,
Your
judging by the
took
map,
all of these kids,
all of these kids just by herself.
like in a van, a big
Big Buick. Big Buick.
Buick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's why they made Buicks, because they could do that.
Yeah. We were packed in, and we were gone for like a month. And everything you could see. So I was the youngest, and she would let me drive sometimes, just steer, of course. You know, you're in the middle of New Mexico. There's nothing to hit, really. I'll steer for a little bit. But then when I wasn't steering...
Don't tell New Mexico that.
Yeah,
I
New
mean, we're in
Mexico.
New Mexico. Anybody can drive
There's a
there.
statute of limitations on that, right? But I'd be looking through the tour books, and I'd be looking to see where do we stay and look at this hotel. And I got fascinated with travel and new places, and so that led me to studying abroad in college. And I went to New Zealand and Fiji and Australia and the Cook Islands and Tahiti. And so for a long time, I just wanted to travel. I'm like, how do I just travel the world and get paid to do this? And so I went to interview with a company actually in Vancouver. And at that point, I'd been to probably a dozen countries at like 19 years old, 20 years old. And I said, well, you got to, not bad, kid, not bad, but do some more, travel some more, and then come see us. And they went on trips all over the world, right, 100 plus countries. And so I went back from that meeting and I said, Mom, Dad, Grandma, I'm dropping out of college. I'm going to go backpack Europe. Because they said I got to travel more if I want to go get a job with them being a tour guide. And I just want to travel the world and get paid. So again, supportive, amazing, loving family, confidence me. They're like, don't like the idea of you dropping out of college at all. But if you think that's really what's going to help you do what you want to do, we support it. So then I backpacked Europe for a few months and came back. And then I'm like, okay, crap, I'm out of money now. And I need to make money. I didn't want to get a job. I've had a bunch of jobs. I had over 22, 23 jobs probably through high school and college and junior. Well, the first one in the mall at 14. But so I started a sunglass business because I subscribed to Entrepreneur magazine in high school and college. And I bought, the knockoff shades where you get the...
I don't know the knockoff shades.
You don't know the
knockoff
knockoff
shades?
shades?
Is that a brand? Knockoff shades?
No, the kiosks in the malls, right? Where you get
I don't know.
$12
I don't
for
go
one
to
or
the
2
mall.
for 20.
I don't know that place. No.
Yeah. So go back in time, 15, 20 years ago, right? And so I had a kiosk where we would sell these sunglasses. They look like Oakley's, they look like Versace, they look like Ray-Ban, but they're $12. Great margins on those, by the way. You buy them for $2. And so I had a kiosk, and I was doing that in college once I came back, and then that was going well. And so I opened up a second one at my hometown, and then I opened up a third one in Madison, Wisconsin. And so I was in college. I had 3 kiosks selling sunglasses.
With employees, obviously.
15 employees.
Because you can't be at 3 places at once.
Nope.
Not even you.
No,
With all that
I
positivity,
tried.
right?
I tried. We had 15 employees. I asked my stepdad if he wanted to do it with me, and he said, yes, sounds great. And so he ran one of them, and then we had a manager at the third one. And we called it Shady's. We had a thatch roof we got from Mexico. We made everybody have Hawaiian shirts. I bought palm trees. I even bought a fan to blow on the palm tree. So I was always doing this, right? Because it can't just be stationary. I'm like, we got to have uniformity in our brand.
A stationary palm tree.
It's lame.
It doesn't exist.
Nobody just wants a palm tree that sits there. You want it to be waving, capturing your attention. And so I did that, and it was great. It was great. And I'm like, I just want to work for myself, I think. This sunglass thing.
Did
was
it
doing
afford you to travel? Was it successful enough for you to say, okay, I've got it all running, I'm going to hit the wild earth again? Or
I had some, good road trips I got away, but no, I was still pretty involved with the business.
okay.
And then 9/11 came. And if you remember 9/11, everyone thought, who knows what's happening next? No one was shopping. No one was going anywhere. I was in college. And the malls were like empty for 2 months. And it also was when we just had opened up our third store. We also didn't know how winter was going to go. And all of these things happened where, went from really good to okay to not good in a matter of like a half a year. So then I shut that down. I'm in college. I think I was in my third year, 4 if you count study abroad. Was studying, but so I'm like Van Wilder. I went for 4.5 years, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing communications, to talk to people. Shocker. I like to do that. I'm good at that. I just wanted to travel or work for myself.
You were studying what you were already good at.
Pretty much, yeah. Like I can do this. I had 8 years of Spanish, and so I was at a crossroads though. So that business didn't survive, and a friend of mine had dropped out of school, and he was doing mortgages, and he was making more than my parents were at the time, as a 22-year-old kid. And I'm like, well, Scotty's doing this. I can do this. I just kind of always had that attitude. Not downplaying Scotty. Scotty's a great guy, amazing, talented guy. But Scotty can do it. I can do it, right? This guy can do it. I can do this. So I'm like, what do you do, Scotty? He's like, I just call 60, 80 people a day, and I try to get them better interest rates, and I get them a mortgage. I'm like, what's a mortgage? I didn't know what a mortgage was, right?
Wow.
I was just a renter at 22 years old. So I said, well, let me give this a shot. So I interviewed with them, and they didn't want to take me because I was young still, but I got in, and I started doing mortgages. And that was kind of what propelled me into the real estate world. Did that all the way through 2008. Got my real estate license right before that. Had my first short sale.
Good timing.
That was my house.
Right.
Was my first short sale. Went through bankruptcy. And skipping over the success in the middle, had some very good years, right? With that business, with that company, I was a manager of a branch in Milwaukee for a couple of years. Because when they promote you, they give you the worst office, right? This one's bleeding money. Jesse, go on in and turn it around. But did that, and then got into the broker world. I'm like, oh my Lord, I can make 4 times the money from my underwear at home in my home office.
Right.
This is crazy. And I went through the crash and got pretty beat up. Then went and had to get a job again. I got a job, and I was a manufacturer's rep because I do love the outdoors. I love travel. I love to ski. I love to camp, hike. And so I was a rep for Columbia Sportswear and Sorel and Canada Goose and all these outdoor brands. Did that for a few years, but I'm like, I want to be back in the finance world, and I want to actually get into real estate, not just help people get houses or refinance their mortgage, but I want to be in the game.
So you had an idea that real estate had the potential, but at that point, say 2010 or so, you hadn't really felt that in a real way in your life yet, but you knew it had potential.
Yeah.
You'd done some good mortgages. You understood. You had a sense of it. But when you seem to get back into the real estate business, had you really been into it from an investor's standpoint at that point? No. Okay.
No.
So when you came back, was that a focus, wanting to understand it from an investor's perspective?
Yeah, totally. And the timing was right to get me in the creative real estate space because I was who people were preaching to. Do you want to buy real estate with no money? That's me. With no credit? That's me. Couldn't get financing myself, even though that was my job to get other people mortgages, but I couldn't get it myself because I had a bankruptcy. Now, a couple of years later, in that job for a few years and met some amazing people and great relationships, but back, I'm like, okay, you know what? I helped a lot of people buy real estate, either to live in or for investment purposes, but I never did it. And one of those things, kicked myself, right? It's, for years, helping other people do stuff, and light never went off in my head. Maybe I should do that. Granted, half the people that were doing that and before '08 lost it, flippers and speculation and whatnot. And who knows, maybe that would have been me. But anyway, something went off saying, okay, this is the side you need to be on. And I had a pretty good background at that point already in finance and in credit and in underwriting and knowing loans. And but now it was, how do I actually start acquiring property?
I find it really interesting that those credentials, as it were, as we're going to fast forward, serve you greatly today in at least one of your businesses, one of your business models. The idea that sometimes your adversity, what you've really lived through, what you've really sweated your way through, somehow you got through, sometimes your adversity can become a truly great deliverable that you can now offer to people because you understand it. You've been there. You know, you've got that empathy piece, but you've also got the experience of navigating it to say, okay, I've been here. Here's how I move forward. Or I've been here. You don't want to be here. Let's reroute around it. There's a better way to get where you're going. I think I say that in some way, shape, or form every week of my life, that the reason I can really hold the line here and say, no, we don't want to do this, and or that deal structure is not what we want, or this or that. There's this history around it. I somehow paid a price to know this. I've made this mistake, or I've been in this situation, or so you've, in a sense, you've done that, as we'll learn more about some of the things you're doing today. But let's go back to just being the investor side. You've bought a lot of investment properties, right? And I like to keep this on a scale people can understand as much as possible. Can you think of a deal? Can you walk me through a deal that you've done that you feel like anybody could have done had they had your positivity, your toolbox, and here's how you've ended up with that deal. Here's how they could have ended up had they had the mindset and the toolbox to create what you've created. Pick one and walk me through it.
Well, I mean, without even getting creative, honestly, the first deal I ever did, which is something anyone who's watching or listening and is not in real estate, this is as easy as it gets, is I bought a fourplex with FHA financing. 3.5% down that I took from a commission check from selling gear, right? Because I was ending that business and starting the mortgage business back up again, in real estate side. And got a fourplex and used that as kind of the starting point. Sold that a number of years later and bought a bunch of Airbnbs with that. But my first creative deal, I should go back. I got really into learning and figuring it out. I'm like, okay, I know mortgages well. I know finance. I know credit. I know that side of it. I've got a great leg in the business there. I don't quite understand everything I need to know, especially on the creative real estate. I knew everything about the normal real estate, going to the bank, putting 20% down, and here's the guidelines and DTI and LTV and all that good stuff. So I started doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube, finding different people online, and then buying an online course from someone for $997, right? Because that was the magic number. And I bought this course, and I'm like, I'm just going to follow this. I feel like the person selling it is sincere. Seems like it works. My mortgage side knew that it should make sense, even though it's not cookie cutter and what I was used to. So I followed it. And I ended up finding a couple that wanted to get into a home, couldn't get into a home. And I understood their situation, why they couldn't qualify, but they had some money down, they had stable income, and they needed time to correct what was going on in their life to be able to go back to a bank and get a loan. And so, well, what if I go get you the house that you want? So, okay, that sounds great. So I went and let them pick out the home. It was a really cool situation. This family had a daycare that they ran out of this little townhouse. Imagine a whole daycare. I mean, a townhouse, 1,200, 1,400 square feet for 2 people, and I think they had 3 kids. That's not a lot of space.
And they're going to run a
They're
business
trying to run
out
a
of it
business
too.
out of there. Yeah.
Right.
So we ended up finding a place that was on an acre of land against this river, beautiful space, and it needed work. It definitely needed updating. I mean, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have spent the night there in a sleeping bag myself, but it was what they loved and what they wanted. And so found a way to go buy the house. I said, I'm going to buy it at today's price. We'll let you take a few years to get your situation corrected. I can tell you what you need to do and set the future price. And they agreed. They put money down, which covered half of my down payment. And that was my first deal.
And then sold it to them on a contract for deed,
That one was on a lease to own.
a lease to own.
Yep.
Yep.
So I did a lease option on that. Gave them 3 years to get their situation fixed. And they had a couple things going. They had a bankruptcy, which came from a bad divorce, and then they were also self-employed with the daycare, doing what everybody who's self-employed does and writing off way too much, claiming nothing on their taxes, so they looked broke on paper. And so they needed time to fix those situations. And I made $575 a month every month. They were fixing and repairing it. They said, Jesse, hey, this kitchen is really ugly, man. Can we fix it up? I'm like, you want to pay for it and do the work to fix it up? Yeah, can we do that? Yeah, you can do that. Sure. Just tell me how you're doing it, and what are you picking out? But okay. And so they did that. They redid a bathroom. They ripped the deck off, put a new deck on. I said, well, this is pretty cool, because you know me, I can't swing a hammer. My dad was a barber for years. He cuts hair. He doesn't fix stuff, right?
I think he has more talent in his hands than a guy with a hammer should have.
This is true. Probably more than a lot of guys with hammers.
Yeah.
Yes, but I never learned those skills as a kid.
Right.
So I'm like, wow, this is great. So they're fixing up the property that I bought for them, and
Right.
and I'm not dealing with a lot of headaches and hassles. And then the craziest thing was I made more money on that deal than I would have had I done their loan for them, if I even could have done their loan. Which again, in history, it was a small little deal, but it was great.
Yeah.
And it showed me that this thing works, which was the biggest thing. Works.
So the idea that most people say this is what I want, and I've got to go figure out a way to buy this. Essentially, you became the conduit to their ownership. You became one more link in the step between their desire to own this and their actual ownership of it. You gave them an opportunity by buying it yourself, leased it to them with an option to buy it, and this provided that bridge between where they were and where they wanted to go. And so you created that solution. And in doing that, in creating the solution, you, of course, got paid for it, between the difference between what you paid and what your strike price to them was, right?
Yep.
Those are, to me, that's what I love about deal structuring, is that it's solution-based. You see a situation and ask yourself, how can I help you? Okay. And from an entrepreneurial perspective, how can I structure this to where I'm creating a value for myself as well as the entrepreneur solving this situation?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a win-win.
Yeah.
You've done many of those with that rough
100.
model.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel if this were like a franchise? Like, this is what we do, right? You've got somebody that is sincere. They want to buy something. They are in a place, though, that conventionally they can't make that happen right now. So there's the scenario. You can be the buyer of it and do exactly what you've done, or you can link an investor up who actually becomes their bridge source to do exactly what you did. The investor buys it, lease options it to them, or contract for deed, perhaps, whatever the tool you want to use. But then where They get what they want. The investor gets what they want. You brokering the deal get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Put the title on that and develop that in terms of telling this audience how you've created actually education around that basic model.
Well, and again, it comes from doing it, discovering it, and ironically, I should say that the course I bought was not how to do my first deal. Mm-hmm. That was kind of happenstance.
Yeah.
I found this couple, they had an ad on Craigslist looking for a home. How many people are going on Craigslist looking at the ads, if they're even still there, that says looking for a home? It's like a fish jumping up on the dock saying, hello, I'm right here, right? So, but the course was how to find sellers that couldn't sell and then tie them up with buyers that couldn't buy and do lease options or wholesale the lease option if there's no cash flow or there's no equity or forcing the equity. So that was the course that I bought. And I did a lot of deals like that. But then I came back to this model saying, I know mortgage guidelines, I know rules, I know a good story from a bad story, right? And there's always the sniff test, but there's a lot of people, they just need time. And especially after '08, the pendulum swung, right? From, you could fog a mirror. Again, this is funny, right? I wasn't buying any real estate back when I could have bought it with no money down, with financing even, right? We can still do that now because we know better.
'07, yep.
Right?
Yep.
Can we throw in some furniture? Throw that on there too. And let's do a 40-year interest only, right? ARM that'll come due in 3 years that I won't be able to afford.
Right. With a 6-month deferral of any interest accrual.
And I just skated by with the 620 credit score, right? And we wonder why everything happened the way it happened.
Right.
So I wasn't buying real estate then, but I understood the situations. I understood what was going on. So a lot of it, the pendulum swung back the other way. And now it's like, wait a minute, you have a 750 credit score and you made, $400,000 gross on your taxes, but you only made 80 net because a bunch of it's, we know what it probably really is. And you can't qualify. That's kind of crazy, right? Or you missed one payment on a bill and it dropped your score 100 points and you can't qualify, but everything else in your life is great. I'll take a chance on you all day long. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, we started finding buyers that were in that situation. And I would take those buyers and say, hey, I know what you need to do to fix your situation so you can be bankable again, and go pick out the home and I'll buy it for you. I'm buying it at today's price. You're going to agree to buy it at tomorrow's price. And tomorrow, right, might be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, because everyone has a different clock ticking. Everyone has a different situation, right? Someone might need a year, someone might need 3 years. Mm-hmm. And we would create the spread. We create like a flip, except for we're not doing any work on the house whatsoever, and create that cash flow out of payment that was affordable, making sure they can afford it, using, again, kind of some underwriting up front. Mm-hmm. And the coolest thing is just, these are folks that really don't have any other options. They're going to go rent, right? Mm-hmm. And they're going to go spend all of their money on rent, someone else's house, and then come back when that timetable is good again.
Whereas they could have lived in the property that they've always wanted. They could be improving it and therefore creating a real home feel on it. Of course, when they improve it on their own dollars over that period, your value of being the investor owner improves, your collateral of performance improves. Mm-hmm. All of these things are win-win for everybody along the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're vested. Yeah. They get what they want. Mm-hmm. They get it now. They're paying a little premium and they're okay with that, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's still a little premium over not getting what they want. Yeah. Maybe it's the school they need for or the house they need for that school district, right? Or for their kids to stay in the sports team, or a medical situation. We had a lot of that, right, with COVID and after, and not working for 6 months. And okay, now we're good again, but that 6 months, holy cow, that screwed us up for 3-4 years. With everything that dominoed from that. Divorce, holy cow, we see a lot with that, right? I mean, over 50% divorce rate. And I don't care, you could have two of the best looking people on paper, great credit scores, great jobs, and all of a sudden divorce happens. No one's looking good for a little while. And again, those issues domino, and they last for longer than the thing that actually happened, right? I tell people credit goes down way faster than it goes up. And once it's there, it's there. So yeah, it's it's a really cool system to help people get what they want. And we don't always purchase everything ourselves, so we connect other investors. I call lazy landlords with affection. People that are pilots, that are, restaurateurs, that are attorneys. They just want to have cash flow. They want to have depreciation, tax advantages, and they want to have cash flow and be growing their portfolio, but they don't want to do the stuff that we do. They don't want to do bird letters, they're bandit signs, knocking on doors. They just want that. They want the easy button. And so this is a great way to help them get what they want as well.
So this business has allowed you to it's sort of, it falls under the heading of a business or a job in that it's almost like brokerage in a sense. It can be under the umbrella of real estate, a really good paying job, but this has allowed you to follow a passion for buying real estate for your own account and combine this wanderlust of travel. Where do I want to buy it? Talk to me about your vacation rentals that you own, that you manage, and the diversity of them. I mean, they're warm, they're cold, they're here, they're there. I mean, but it really is where you want to be when you want to be there. You're focusing in those areas. Talk to me about that. I love it when real estate serves not only the investment purpose, but the life purpose. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems to be doing both. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So my first short-term rental that I bought, I used my knowledge and skills that I had partially paid for and invested in, because I bought that course way back in the day, and all the deals I've done and how I was able to navigate that. Again, just learning from other people, just not the smartest tool in the shed, just someone else is doing this. I can emulate that. I can copy that and do it. And got my first Airbnb, and I think it was $7,000 down, 5-year balloon, and got it about 30 grand under asking price or under market price. And it's at a ski resort in northern Minnesota where I love to go skiing at. I love to go hiking at, waterfalls, Lake Superior's right there. And I'm not much of a cabin guy, even though everyone in Minnesota has a cabin, right? It's like everyone has a cabin and plays hockey, and that's the state, and they fish. I'm the kind of guy, I'd rather go to the restaurant, order some buffalo wings, have a couple beers, and say, here's the dishes. I'm out, right? I don't want to go put a dock in at the beginning of the season, go put the dock out, and got to do this with the roof. And I've got that with my in-laws. It's great. I love them, and I'm happy to always help them. But they're always a project. And so I said, this is really cool. I could have a property where I could take my kids, take my wife, we could go skiing, and have it paid for by somebody else. And so I bought it on creative financing, and now it's one of about 15 that we have. And we have some in Minnesota, some in Wisconsin, and some in Florida. And the cool thing is with that one, I got a second one in that same resort, right? About 100 properties in that resort. Got a second one there, kind of the same situation. And I saw a pattern. I'm like, wait a minute, this is kind of cool. I saw the pattern. So people would buy these townhomes or condos that are ski in, ski out, and there's a pool and a hot tub and a restaurant and a bar and all this stuff. And they would use them a lot. And then their kids would get older, and then they wouldn't go as much. Then they'd stop going. And because the local management company, the resort itself, takes 50%, they're not making really any money. And then they start repairing things and replacing things, and now they're in the hole. But they're not like a seller who needs the money to go to another property. This is just their second home. So I said, well, what if I can just give you the same money that you're getting right now from the resort, maybe even more, and consistently every month, and I'll fix and repair everything. I'll deal with the annoying guests. I'll deal with all of that stuff. I just pay you. I'd rather pay you than the bank. Is that okay? Well, sure, I guess we could do that. And guess what? Every single person I talked to in the next 3 years said pretty much the same thing. Yeah. And so, it's, nothing big on major scales, but a couple $1 million in property from probably 40,000 invested, 30,000 total. Yeah. Just coming in, and again, what's their problem? How can I be a solution provider for their problem? It's a win for them, win for me. And when you truly can solve people's problems and have a win, that they go, yeah, this works for me. Showing them the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, the debrief of something going well, how a deal worked, it's serving you, it's serving them. I love how about rinse and repeat this? How about let's see who else in the same exact resort has a unit that fits this same MO. I can't believe this is the only one. Well, it turns out it's not the only one. It's several in there.
Yeah.
And of course, now you're consolidating management efforts. You're consolidating, your own team that you need to do it. Better rates per door to manage to maintain because you're providing more to your team, et cetera. And eventually, you might even have enough to control the entire HOA around the condo association to start making other influential changes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A lot can happen with scale.
A lot can happen.
Now you might say, I might not be the smartest bulb on the tree because we're scattered everywhere, right? And so it's great having scale in certain markets.
Yeah.
But at the same point, to your question is, I want to own where I like to go, and so it was on my list. I wanted a place in Florida, and I was there on a vacation, staying at my in-laws' timeshare that they have there in Fort Myers, and I don't know, this was probably 4 years ago, and it was March. Again, for Minnesota, March can have some nice days. When I say nice, I mean 35, but it's not 80. And I said, okay, this is where I would love to be a year from now and have a place here that I can come to whenever I want to, but I don't ever have to write a check for. It doesn't have to be a huge moneymaker, but someone's paying off my asset for me, and I can go whenever I want to and take my kids and take my wife, take my friends down and have a fun weekend. And just said, this is what I want. And by New Year's next year, I want to be in a hot tub, blaring some Bob Marley, having a cocktail in my house. And so then I got it in. And once I really had that picture in my head, and I said I want it, and then I started telling people, no shit, I said it out loud. People know it, so now I'm hunting for it. And so that was our first place in Florida. And so it's my wife's favorite place because she's a beach girl. And we'll go rent the boat down there and go out in the water, and it's a great place. So that's part of the list as well, as creative deals, helping families get home ownership and getting the home they want is one big leg of the business, but the other business is short-term rentals and helping others get those too, who want to have a cash flow cabin and a place to get away.
What, the evolution of your real estate entrepreneurship, I mean, you can feel it now. It has momentum. You're open, you're looking. What is the challenge, the product type, the direction that you see adding to this list of competencies? Do you see anything in your future other than adding more of these, which I would assume you would want to? But any other product type, any other direction, any other principles that are coming to play that you want to put in motion?
Yeah. No, it's the time has been more than due to get into some other asset classes, more on the commercial side. I love the RV storage, RV development, kind of man cave idea. And I've got the residential side down, and I know that the skills that I'm using, I want to put more into some just bigger deals. Something that is outside of just the primary residence world.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. Tell me, Jesse, some of the disciplines. Hard driving people that produce a lot. They're wearing a lot of hats. You're a dad, you're a husband, you're an entrepreneur, you've got employees, you've got managers. That world has a lot going on. What are some of the disciplines that you apply in your life consistently that lead to this sort of overall engine that's working for you?
A lot of it's just belief in what you're capable of, what is the possibility of what's out there. Again, some of it is this, I've just kind of always had, hey, if this guy or this gal can do this, Why can't I do that? And again, I think it's been a confidence thing that my parents just instilled in me. You can do anything. You can be anything. You know, it was, again, just tremendously blessed as a child. But life is short. I want to live an amazing one. I don't want to live a normal one. I don't want to have an average life. And I want everyone around me to have that same possibility and opportunity and belief. And so, I mean, if I'm not representing that myself, how the heck can I
Right.
have my team or my friends also have that same belief? And then you get to a point, as you know, you're so damn busy, it's just momentum, right? There's been a few times, not often, there's a few times where it's just like, well, there's not a lot going on. And I'm an all or nothing guy. So I need to just be head down, going 100 miles an hour. And, they have a saying, right? You want something done, give it to a busy person. And so it's just, let's go. What's next?
I think often, I know we've talked about this with this love I have of aviation, the difference between airspeed and ground speed. I see people that are going flat out all over and all around me. And pedal to the metal and just everything going forward. The question though that I always ask is, okay, their engines are running to capacity, their pedal is to the metal, but are they getting anywhere? And that's the difference between, you can have plenty of airspeed. I can put this thing up to, 250 knots of airspeed, but the question is, what's the ground speed look like? Am I going across the ground at 250 knots or more? It's possible I could be going nowhere with enough headwind, right? And so to get ground coverage with the energy and effort, to really get to where you're going with the energy and effort. And in some ways, I think that solution in the world of real estate entrepreneurship, you alluded to it with some different product types, has to take into account the concept of leverage, which you've employed for sure, coming into all these various acquisitions. But the second concept that it has to take in is the concept of scalability.
Yeah.
That as we move into understanding, making a lot of headway for our energy and effort, the scale of our effort has to have bigger rewards than just the effort itself. I can take 6 months and go buy one house, remodel it, do this and that, rent it out, and make $200 a month net positive cash flow. In the same 6 months, I could maybe buy a 400 pad mobile home park and redo a few things and raise the rent $50 a pad. And there's what I've done in that 6 month period. Well, 50 times 400, right? We can do the math.
Right.
Instead of $200 for my effort, I've got $20,000 for my effort.
Yeah.
And that scalability has to come into our thinking. I'm excited that with your energy, with your just this incredible positivity and an increasing toolbox, then it's just like click, click. It's just the same thing, only add a couple more square feet, add a couple more units, add a couple more, the scalability changes, and I can see it. The rest is history, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah.
I appreciate that and like to hear that. And it's, I think at any level you get where you're like, well, I'm comfortable with this. I've done this. I know this. But when you have the tools, it's like, and you teach this and you know this better than anybody. When you have the key, you don't have to just go after all the red doors. There's some blue doors and those are bigger doors and they're better doors. And that key is going to open those doors as well. Just stop opening the ones that you're used to, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think Alexandra said at Power Players last time that when she was speaking, it's almost easier dealing with someone with a strip mall, $5-10 million than a homeowner who doesn't get any of it. And I remember her saying she like educated this guy on, the slice and dice and SOS, and he was like, "What?" and wanted to know this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, I love that she said that, because
Right.
you take something that seems for some people maybe intimidating, and it's like, no, it's the opposite.
Right.
Might be easier.
Right.
And it's just having a conversation with someone that actually kind of gets it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's using those tools and using them more effectively, like you said, to be scalability, right? And
Yeah.
leverage.
Yeah. Jesse, you're in a people, if they did the math, they would get it wrong. The Power Players. This is the 37th Power Players coming up in
Wow.
just a few weeks in Arizona.
It's
And
incredible.
if there's 5 or 6 TAs at every Power Players, you can kind of do the math at how many you think there might have been in the history of Power Players. But that's wrong math, because several Power Players have been TAs multiple times. You've named Alexandra. She's done it twice already. Well, Lindy's done it 6 times, and several have done it over and over again. The bottom line is you come into almost a culture within a culture, being a TA coming up here at Power Players. Tell me about Power Players from your perspective, and what your anticipation is on the teaching side, being in the kitchen of Power Players. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. Number one, I'm incredibly grateful and honored that you asked.
I'm excited for you, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
I'm excited for everybody that gets to be there with you.
I
Yeah.
can't wait. I
Yeah.
can't wait. And incredibly grateful, and thank you. It means a ton
Yeah.
to even be thought of. So, no, I'm excited. My first Power Players, I didn't know one person there. Alexandra had said, "You got to go to this thing, and you got to meet this guy." Go. I said, "Okay, cool." And then I think 2 weeks later, I'm like, "Hey, I'll see you there in a couple of weeks, right?" And she said, "Oh, I'm not going to be there." And so I didn't know anybody, right? But my annoying positivity and an attitude, I made a ton of friends, my very first one, and I'm excited. I remember the first Power Players it wasn't even halfway through the day. I'm like, this guy's freaking wild. I need to have more of this in my life. We think the same, we feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of that in my environment. And I'm like, I need more of this. And it's, how it is. Someone who's never been, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain.
I've done it 37 times, and it's hard to explain.
Right? It's.
Yeah.
I remember, telling folks, I'm like, even if you don't like real estate, just go and listen to Greg, and just philosophically, and the people you'll meet there, and the activities. You can hate real estate, you'll still get a lot out of this. And so there's different sides that people will resonate with and find, and
well, it's quite an awesome fraternity, and you've gotten to meet, even today, the more Power Players throughout the country, and
yes.
to me, it's where we become better and where we stay uncomfortable,
Yes.
which is the goal.
Yeah.
Is when we're venturing in and entering the situation where we know somebody's heart, we know their integrity, we know that they're wanting to give as much as they hope to get out of this relationship. So it's a trusting basis. You walk in, and then you're there to learn, and they're there to learn from you.
Yeah.
And wow, when you get that environment that everybody's a student and a teacher,
Yes.
holy smokes, here we go, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now it just starts coming in. You can't even eat fast enough. It's coming in left and right. And that's like compounded interest. When you're giving and receiving, when you're teaching and you're learning, it's an environment that you become intolerant of anything else.
Yeah. It's 100%. And I'm excited to let people know you're not going to get this all right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
The fact that you're here, you should be proud of yourself that you're here and you're in a safe space with some amazing people.
Yeah.
Amazing people you might know, and amazing people you haven't met yet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, just another door to go through, and just take it in and enjoy it, and take a million notes.
You know, much like your interaction with the guy that had the acreage that you just started a conversation with, the answer to so much of, I think, what we're looking for always seems to come in unusual packages. Mm-hmm. When we least expect it, there's the tidbit, the bite of wisdom we were looking for. There's the opportunity we were looking for. There's the connection we needed that goes from here to there, that we never would have got there without this puzzle piece. And I love that when people can recognize that the answer is usually one or two phone calls away. You feel stuck. You feel like you have no options. You feel like I can't figure this out. One or two calls away. Yeah. Sometimes I get to be on the privileged side of that call. I got a call this last Saturday. I'm sorry, it's just kind of coming off the top of my head, but to a partnership of maybe 3 of the most gifted commercial students I've ever had. And they're in a partnership together. And they've got a deal under contract, a big deal. And the call came in like, here's all the details. We're stuck. What do we do? Mm-hmm. What are we not seeing? And I honestly, my first reaction is, I don't even want to say any names because I'm sure they would be embarrassed. And I'm not going to give you the details because then you'd go, really? That's all it was? But it was, sometimes that's our life, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Where somebody out here from this perspective is going, really? Is this really coming to me as a question? You can't see this?
Yeah.
And yet here's 3 right in the middle of the woods that have ground on this thing, and they couldn't see the most obvious, simple. The answer was right there. You told me the answer. You told me all the ingredients were there. I almost felt like it was a trick question.
Should I answer?
You're
should I
telling me that you haven't thought of this? This is all you need to do. This is the proposal. The principle's the same.
They want someone.
You're going to
it.
change the interest, which they've already said that's fine. Mm-hmm. You simply need to change this deal structure from this to this. And you've already told me everything about them says yes, they've already almost agreed. And do you see that little change, that tiny little change mm-hmm. over the 10-year period that you're worried about just made you over $700,000? Do you see that? I can do it in my head that fast. It solves your problem of what to do 10 years from now, because now instead of owing $1 million, you owe $300,000. That's it. That's the change. And there was like silence. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe we think of that. I go, neither can I, quite honestly. But that's it. Happy to help.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hung up the phone and I had to pause. But what I thought of was, how many times in my life has somebody seen the simple answer, mm-hmm. you're making this way too tough. Mm-hmm. Here it is. And you go, light bulb. For some reason, you'd never seen it until then.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with quality people that care, that have integrity, that are on the arena floor. Mm-hmm. They're not the critics. They're on the floor with a sword.
Yes, exactly.
Who are willing to give as much as they want to receive in this exchange. Wow. Why do we have to know it all ourselves when we've got that around us? You see, we're better together. There's no question about it. And this group coming up, although 99% of them haven't met you and you met them, I can tell you already, they're better that you're going to be there, right? And you're going to be better because they're the coming.
Absolutely.
This is the contribution. So yes. I'm excited for that coming up in your life. As I've seen this movie, and you in the kitchen as a TA is a big deal, and I'm excited about it. 3 books. mandatory. You're writing a prescription for humanity. 3 books they have to read. Have to read. I ask this question a lot, and I hear a lot of answers. So we're taking notes right now. What 3 books?
Well, you can be a little bit more business focused, but I think it spills into overall life. But Millionaire Messenger by Brennan Burchard.
Millionaire Messenger.
Millionaire Messenger.
Okay.
Yeah. Amazing book on how to share your gifts and talents with the world and make a living, helping others make a living. It's pretty cool. Kind of going along with that, what is the name of it? It was on the tip of my tongue. Your Skills, My Skills. This was in my head. This is in my head for the list. Let me come back to that.
Okay.
Cash Flow Quadrant. Robert Kiyosaki. Cash Flow Quadrant was a big one for me because opened my eyes to the differences. Obviously, we know between a business owner and self-employed, but an investor, and really knowing the quadrants. A lot of people think that they're a business owner, and they're not. They're self-employed. They're a specialist, right? So it's super important. So Cash Flow Quadrant, Millionaire Messenger.
I have not read either one of those, so I'm excited. But go back to Cash Flow Quadrant. There is a stated distinction between self-employed and a business owner.
Correct.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Yes. And a lot of people who are in that S quadrant think that they're in the B quadrant.
I see.
And they're not, right? So there's the employee, and then the self-employed, and then the business owner, and then the investor.
Right. Interesting.
And again, really to put your perspective of where you need to be spending your time and going.
Got that one down.
Yeah.
Thought of the third one yet?
It's right there.
Want to call an audible for a fourth that really should have been a third?
I'm going to go, let's go with number 4, Traction. Traction is a fantastic book. Yeah, absolutely.
You enjoy reading business books. What's the best biography or autobiography you've ever read? Whose life have you studied that you really think is worth studying?
Napoleon Hill. Yeah. I mean, how can you not go there?
Yeah, pretty much anything he's ever written is gold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to go for more of the business books. But again, I think there's so many takeaways from books like that to spill over into your personal life. Absolutely. Go Giver, of course, is huge as well. Because what's it all for at the end of the day? Right?
So you get to pull anybody out of the planet right now. They're living, they're around, and let's assume they'd be available for a sit down with you, cup of coffee, 3 hours to just talk. Who's that person that you'd want to pull aside and just spend a couple hours with, if they were willing?
If they were willing. I mean, it might sound cliche, but Elon, the guy is such an amazing big thinker, so out there, does his thing, right? Just thinking and brain on another level, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to rally people around him and his ideas to make that a reality.
Yeah.
How do you do that? And Richard Branson, how the heck are you running 400 plus companies? And I know it's not by micromanaging. I know it's by trusting in your team. But just a couple legends. That are very different.
Yeah. You know what's awesome, Jesse, and it really does speak of your nature, is that the idea of, I want to latch on to those who think bigger, do bigger, have a bigger footprint, who have a bigger impact, right? The ego gets in the way of asking the right questions of people, because it says in a sense that I'm admitting that you have a bigger, better game than I have. But isn't step one. Humility is step one to growth.
Absolutely.
And boy, I'll tell you, those people that obviously are doing and throwing out to the world in ways that you're not, I'm not, isn't that who you want to learn from? You know, who is it you aspire to be? Who is it you aspire to be challenged by? And set your sights on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's who we are with, but it's who we study.
Absolutely.
It's the habits of those.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be in any field. It could be in business. It could be in all kinds of different, you know, ways or directions of life. But I think that we learn by going to those who've done more and better than we've done. So
I think those
reading
that are
and studying.
committed to growth
Yes.
that want to do that. I think
Yeah.
I think sadly there's a lot of folks who want to be the big fish in a small pond.
Right.
Because it feels good.
Yeah.
And it's tough to go out there and say, I'm the small fish in the big pond. And even tougher to say, how do I become a fish like you? Because it's humility and it's humbling and it's, but I can say, I think for my history and my trajectory, that has helped me tremendously is to get in rooms where I'm the small fish
Yep.
and say, okay, hey man, what'd you do? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah.
Or hey miss, how did you get there? How did you pull this off? And I'm all ears and have that humility and that humbleness to do that. Because there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah.
Always. And in a bigger way, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Who Not How. That's the book.
So, say again.
Who Not How.
Who, not how.
Yeah. Who Not How.
Is that Simon Sinek?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Same author as Traction, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
It sounds like a Simon Sinek theme.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Nope. Who Not How. All about, right? Someone is great at something and they like to do that thing. And it's maybe different than what you are great at and what you like to do.
You know what? You know what? I have this vision. You know how you see these things going around the internet, like you know, send a book to somebody you don't know, and you'll get a book from somebody. I have this. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe we're going to put this together. Maybe it'll be a Hanger Day event. You know, where I get a hold of. I don't know. I'm just picking a number. Say 50 awesome people, and the entry pass is to show up at the Hanger with 5 hardbound books.
Ooh, I like
Okay,
that.
wrapped up. Okay.
Yep.
And then there's the exchange. Okay, with somebody you don't know. Here's my pile. Here's your pile. Okay. Now, then the auction starts. If there's a book in the pile you just received that you've already read, you can exchange it for if somebody else, okay, hold up a book that you have that you've already read. So you'd hold up yours and others would hold up theirs, and you could exchange it only if you haven't. So everybody leaves
Yeah.
with 5 books they haven't read.
I love that idea.
And then
love
there's
that
a little
idea.
card inside of each book that says, here's why I, whoever the original giver was, love this book. Here's what I got out of it. So that you've got kind of a pregame show.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be freaking awesome.
Okay, all right.
I'm in.
You're on the list. I'm going to
Don't
create
tell
it.
the public library about that. They're gonna be a little pissy. But we got it.
We
right?
got it.
Yeah. The Hanger Library. What if you had a Hanger Library?
Hanger Library.
Everybody brings their favorite book, copy of their favorite book.
Maybe that's the entry pass here, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just sort of free to check out, but you got to return it +1.
Ooh.
Right, return it +1.
Yeah. So then it always grows.
Increase the library.
Yeah.
Sustainability. It's
Absolutely.
all about that.
So we got
right?
the empty shelf, the full shelf,
Right.
the empty
Don't
shelf.
deplete the
how it's
resource,
falling.
add to the resource.
Don't step foot through that door without your book. Yeah. What is it? I love that idea.
Oh my God.
I hope you implement it.
Jesse, we started with positivity. I want to read the challenge, because this is just, to me, it's maybe I'm speaking to myself. As a matter of fact, I know I am. But I'm going to set this up with why I think this is challenging. The challenge is real simple. It's positivity and enthusiasm. The challenge is go forth with these things. But I immediately troubleshoot this in a troubled world, in a world with conflict, in a world with a lot of things bug me, that piss me off, that I feel are wrong. There's my conflict. How do you go out with the challenge of consider positivity, consider enthusiasm in a world that is full of conflict? And as I've thought on this, it's that phrase, be the change. Because positivity and enthusiasm to me sounds a lot like love. And if love always wins, well, then it's won. Go win. Go bring it.
Absolutely.
Somehow you do that. And I want to be more like that. I see myself getting caught up in the tension of it all, in the things that bug me, in the things I want to go fight for. But the real weapon of fight is the answer itself. It's positivity. It's enthusiasm. It's love. That's the weapon against these things. That's at least my conclusion. Do you agree that's a good challenge?
I completely agree. And I know your mission is to impact as many people as you can, as is mine. And you can do that more effectively with positivity, with a great attitude, with enthusiasm, right? Like you're sharing so much how you learned from your father. You do anything, do it to the best of your damn ability. Right? And so that's your secret weapon, is to go out and do that. And your currency can grow so much faster.
Well, you've been a voice in the chorus of that message lately in my life.
Thank you.
That I take it all pretty seriously, this thing of life. And sometimes even just that seriously sort of sounds like the antithesis of positivity and enthusiasm. And yet I think that your positivity and enthusiasm can be a serious undertaking. It is the undertaking. It is the challenge. And I'm delivering it first to myself and then to everybody. It's the consider that love is the weapon. Positivity, enthusiasm is the way you're going to change what isn't right around you.
It's needed more now than ever, right?
Yeah, I think you're right, brother.
Absolutely, brother.
Hey, thank you for being with me here today. Thanks for flying from Minneapolis. Thanks for bringing really nice weather from Minneapolis.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a rare thing in the winter that
right?
You're bringing the heat, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy,
rarely
right?
can I do that.
Yeah, right.
You're welcome.
And in a few weeks, we'll be in Arizona.
I'm not bringing it to Arizona.
Wonderfully disturbing each other
absolutely.
and the world around us. Okay.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
And to everybody that is, again, listening in on this today, I so appreciate it. Jesse Mills, Minneapolis, look him up. You're going to want to follow him. Thank you so much. God bless you until next time.